nutritional things to do, smart things to do in the natural realm when it comes to healing our bodies. Keep your body healthy and trust the Lord with the rest. Remember something, never forget this. Faith begins when ability stops. You ought to always remember that. Faith begins when your ability stops. Do all you can do and then trust God. And the people said. Now, when it comes to the Lord, our healer, in the Old Testament, the cross always brought healing, always. Every time it brought healing. Not only in Numbers 16, also Numbers 21. In Numbers 21, when the people again rebelled and murmured, and snakes showed up in the camp and bit them, and many of them died, what did God say to Moses? He said, make a brazen serpent and place it on a pole. And anyone who looks on that brazen serpent will be healed. What's the brazen serpent? Jesus said to Nicodemus, as Moses lifted up the serpent, so shall the Son of Man be lifted. The brazen serpent is Jesus when he became sin. I never liked that part of the Bible when I was young as a Christian. I thought to myself, why would Jesus compare himself to a serpent? I got just saved in 72, and I was reading that maybe, I don't know, a month later, and I did not like that verse in John, because I did not understand it. And one day I'm sitting on a bus, this is back in the 70s, I'm sitting on a bus in Toronto, Canada, Donlands Avenue. I'm reading a book by Martin Luther, the great reformer. Not Martin Luther King, Martin Luther, who was a German priest who brought the message of justification to the Catholic Church. That's why they are called Lutherans. The Lutherans follow Martin Luther back then. Of course, now the Lutherans don't believe anything he preached. But when he preached, he was, sorry about that, but it's true. Anyways, Martin Luther was a powerful man of God. And he taught justification by faith. And I'm reading his book. And he said in his book, this is back 1972 when I read that book, it changed my life. I'm reading his book and he says that there was one verse in the Bible he never liked. It was the same verse in John, when Jesus said, as Moses lifted up the serpent, so shall the Son of Man be lifted. And then he said in the book how God gave him a revelation of that verse. And brother, I got glued to that book because I wanted to know what it meant. And he said this, he said, a snake is the lowest of all animals, and a snake is symbolic of sin. So when Jesus became sin on the cross, it fulfilled what happened in Numbers 21. Do you know that the medical profession today of America, what's their symbol? A snake on a pole. They took it from the Bible. Only if they knew it speaks of Jesus on the cross. Now, when they saw the pole and the brazen serpent, they were all healed. Why? God was saying to them, when you see my son becoming sin, when you see the work of the cross, you'll be healed. Whosoever looketh shall live. Think about it. The cross brought healing in Exodus 12, and in Numbers 16, and in Numbers 21, and throughout the Old Testament. Think about it. David had a revelation of the cross when he said, bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not his benefits, who forgives all your iniquities. And in the same breath he said, and he heals all your diseases. Or Isaiah the prophet, who saw the same revelation in Isaiah 53. He was wounded for our transgressions and bruised for our iniquities and chastised for peace, and with the stripes we are healed. That's all the work of the cross. And you see it right throughout the Bible. The cross of Jesus is the key to your healing. In the New Testament, we see the same thing. Even Paul the Apostle in Corinthians said, when we identify with the work of Calvary, we will be healed. We need to bring the cross back to the church. And the people said, when I say the cross, I don't mean a piece of wood. I mean the message of the cross needs to come back. Do you know that in the New Testament, everywhere Jesus went, everywhere he went, when there was a crowd, all of them were healed. All. If you look at Matthew, you know we all have known and read and memorized the Beatitudes. Blessed are the poor and the meek. Do you know that every one of them, before they heard the Lord, were healed by him? That was a healed crowd. You say, well, where did you get that in the Bible? Matthew 4:23 and on. It says they were all healed. In Matthew 5, that same crowd followed him up the hill, and he sat down and said, blessed are the poor. And it is confirmed in Luke 6:19. You can look it up. Turn in your Bibles and see, I'm telling you the facts. That same crowd was healed before they ever heard Jesus preach. In Luke 6:19 it said, virtue went out of him and healed them all. And the next verse it says, he began to preach to them the Beatitudes. Okay, I'll read it to you. It looks like you don't believe me. I'll just read it to you. Luke chapter 6, verse 19. And the whole multitude sought to touch him, for there went virtue out of him and healed them all. And he lifted up his eyes on his disciples and said, blessed be ye poor, for yours is the kingdom. Everybody that heard him preach was already healed. I think the Lord wants to do it again. So he healed everybody in Matthew chapter 4, in Luke 6, before he ever preached to them. And here's something even to me that's amazing, really amazing. While he was preaching, there was one man who could not attend the service. He was a leper. So he waited down the hill. Remember that? You just read about it. Had that leper come to church that day, they would have stoned him. He would have been killed. So while Jesus is healing the sick, that one man is waiting somewhere else. Now that crowd followed the Lord, and he healed, of course, all of them prior to that, and now they're all hearing him preach. And that dear little man is still waiting for his miracle down the hill. Jesus goes down the hill, and he comes running and says, if it's your will, please heal me too. And he gets healed. What I love about this, Jesus did not miss anybody. He healed them all, and even healed the man who was not in the service. Why? Because he has a healing nature. Everything about the Lord heals. His presence heals. His name heals. Everything about it. Whenever Jesus shows up, miracles always happen. Always. He even heals the unbeliever. I've had unbelievers healed in my meeting. I had a man, God is my witness,